officials are more troubled by ISIS today and their ambitions beyond Iraq. Jim Sciutto, Chief National Security Correspondent at CNN, is with me, and also joining us, retired Army three-star General Mark Hertling. Jim, first of all, something we just heard in that soundbite and some of the information that we've been getting up until now is that ISIS is rolling across Iraq using American military equipment that they've effectively swiped from Iraqi army members who have dropped and ran. If there's going to be more airstrikes, could the United States military be targeting some of our own artillery pieces and tanks?
Absolutely, no question. And in one of the many ironies in this story, you had reluctance to arm Kurdish militias in this fight up to this point, although that is changing now. And part of the reason that's changing is that these Kurdish militias, the so-called Peshmerga, are outgunned by ISIS, in part because ISIS has stolen so much equipment from the Iraqi military supplied by the U.S. So yes, you're now arming the Kurds to fight with U.S. weapons against ISIS that is using U.S. weapons against the Kurds. It's
General Mark Hertling. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
No, it's just one of the many demonstrations of how just entangled this whole region has become. Just one other point, actually, this is interesting. The president last fall was going to conduct airstrikes, and of course he pulled back against the Syrian leadership of Bashar al-Assad. He pulled back from that. But remember, ISIS is fighting Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and now there are airstrikes against ISIS in Iraq. On the other side of that battle in Syria. The region is so messy right now. That's just one of many measures of how messy it is.
I think messy and complex has been used so frequently when it's come to the last decade and a half of war inside Iraq. And General Hertling, maybe you can speak to this. The messiness or the relative ease that the Pentagon is dealing with right now when it comes to the ISIS troops and convoys and what they called artillery that is close to Erbil and close to the Americans who are there. Is this a simple operation, or does it get more complex if they decide to broaden out?
You couldn't design it to be more complex than this, Ashley. This is a very complex situation. There's complications all the way around. Jim is exactly right that the shifting of tides between sale of ammunition and supplies to the Iraqi army versus not to the Peshmerga is something that we attempted to coordinate it when I was there and when other commanders like me were there. Very close relationships with the Peshmerga, but we were trying to incorporate them several years ago into the overall Iraqi army. There were conflicts with the Iraqi government in terms of doing that. And now we're seeing that the Peshmerga, very loyal, very capable fighters, might be the saving grace in some of the ground operations as we reinforce that area with perhaps some overhead fires.
But they seem to be struggling, General, against the onslaught of ISIS fighters who have some pretty sweet equipment, courtesy of the Iraqis, courtesy of the Americans. Is there not that fear? I mean, you touched on it, but is there not that fear that if the Americans go ahead and arm the Peshmerga, as bold and tough as they are, the same thing could happen again?
Well, you can never say never on anything, Ashley. This is the complexities of combat, the complexities of shifting forces in war. But what I would suggest is the strike that took place that Admiral Kirby talked about just a little bit ago was the first brunting of the ISIS assault toward the Kurdish region. And I think that's significant for many reasons. First of all, it took out an artillery piece. It destroyed an artillery piece, which could have been firing into distances toward Erbil, where the Joint Operations Center is. Would they have hit the Joint Operations Center? Probably not. But what I would suggest is the destruction of that piece tells ISIS, hey, we now have a new game in town, we perhaps better back out. And this is an opportunity for the Peshmerga to get resupplied and perhaps carry on the offensive. This could be a key.
General Mark Hertling, thank you so much. Jim Sciutto, thank you as well for your input on this continuously breaking story. And I want to take you to another top story that we're following as well, and that's fighting between Israel and Hamas. That fighting gears back up as a ceasefire is effectively over.